Hi everyone, this is Naren Saif with MS. I am Naren, and here is Super Sunday. Now, you might be thinking that the background behind me is looking a little lighter, and the reason for that is because I have another light bulb turned on over here, and because my room was recently painted. Now that's great considering that the walls look so nice and white and clean, but the issue is that there were quite a few marks on the walls beforehand because I would hold on to the walls for support, and as a result, over the past few years, there were certain marks that were formed because of my hands touching the wall. And now, considering all of those marks have disappeared, now I'm very scared of touching the walls, especially for support, because it would mean that I would be getting them dirty. So you let me know what I should do, right? I'm thinking maybe I should buy some mittens to maybe touch the walls so that they don't get damaged by my hands, by my bare fingers. But with that being said, this Super Sunday, I did want to talk about something. Now, as you know, hopefully, first of all, I'll start off by saying I hope that everyone here had a great weekend and, of course, a restful weekend so that you're all ready to start the week off fresh tomorrow. But of course, apart from this, I did want to talk about something that, at least I will definitely experience quite often here in India this year, and that is, having 3-day weekends or long weekends, as we like to call them. So, the first thing I did want to talk is what is your um, you know, what is your plan usually, or what do you decide on doing when there is a 3-day weekend? Because, of course, the one thing that I always aim to do is, of course, sleep. But more so than that, a lot of times what ends up happening when there is a long weekend is that schedules get disrupted. And being a person with MS, I definitely do rely on a schedule to try and remain as healthy as possible. And this isn't even me saying that okay, I need to have certain things at certain times, I need to be able to have my breakfast, lunch, and dinner at certain time. It's about having everything, right? That pretty much my schedule um, you know runs, which days I go to the gym, which days I should be working out at home, which days am I able to extend work hours if need be, and which days I am which days are meant for more relaxation, or which days are meant for more um, you know stress, right? To be which days are more appropriate for handling more stress. And the reason I do that is to pretty much create more of a balance for myself so that by the end of the week, I don't feel like there is you know extra energy that I've spent, or I'm not too tired, but then at the same time I am not uh, under tired, if that makes sense. That I felt like I have had the ample amount of energy spent, an ample amount of energy that I invested in myself, so to speak. uh, Now, why do I do that? Well, this also allows me to pretty much measure each week against the other, to pretty much gauge certain things like, how much energy reserves do I have, yeah, and am I using them well? Has there been a certain worsening in my symptoms? Has there been an improvement, or better yet, has there been, or are we staying at status quo? So that is why I did want to discuss the point of having a long weekend with you, so that I can understand from you what are your thoughts, what are your approaches to having a long weekend. Because a long weekend, of course, while it does mean that there is one less day of maybe working, one less day of taking on stress, it also means that there's one extra day that you can actually spend doing something that might be beneficial to you, beneficial to your health. And I definitely do want to know from you, what are some of those steps that you take. So one thing that I try to do, I mean, this is something that I also do on the weekends, where I generally do end up going to the gym at least once, which means that when there is a long weekend, um, generally there will be a second gym day added on, which is happening tomorrow. So at least on that front, I am maintaining my discipline, and I know this for a fact that there is going to be, uh, despite there being a long weekend and the fact that I can maybe get extra sleep, I am also doing my part in making sure that I am still adhering to any schedules that I have set, so that there is no discrepancy over there, right? There's nothing in my schedule changing that is going to suddenly cause some sort of worsening later on in the week or in the following week. This is one thing that I do to pretty much set myself up so that my long weekend, while yes, I will aim to sleep as much as possible, while I will um, try to see you know how else I can sleep better, how best to ensure that my body, if there are aches in my body, if there is any stiffness in my body, are they actually you know reducing as a result of the extra rest. But apart from that, of course, making sure that I am making that commitment to my body as well, so that I can also be a little I can do a little more productive work towards my health, towards my physical health, that sometimes gets overlooked when there is a long weekend. Now, this is something that obviously is part of a discipline that I have to be a little more stringent towards, right? I do want to, I definitely do remember when I was in the States a few months back. There was no physical activity happening on my part, and as a result there was quite a bit of atrophy that happened in my muscles. There was quite a bit of um, degeneration that existed, and as a result of that degeneration, I did have, I would say, about a month of hard time to try and get back to what I was before I went to the States. But with that being said, I mean, because long weekends are just you know much smaller groups of vacation days, I do want to also set an example for myself, where I am you know making sure that my schedule is remaining as intact as possible, so that in any future longer longer vacations, I still do have that I still do have the consistency, consistency to stay active, to stay, um, committed to my body, to stay a little, you know, to stay a little ahead of just, making sure that my sleeping needs or my resting needs are met. So that is something that I did want to talk about in regards to, how I am looking to approach um, long weekends that are going to be plentiful in 2026. Now, with that being said, I do want to know what is your thoughts, what are your opinions, what is your approach, and of course, what is your experience to having long weekends, navigating long weekends, so that we can actually get the conversation started and actually have a very fruitful conversation on making sure that we're not wasting our long weekends away. And by wasting long weekends away, I of course do not mean that because we're sleeping the entire time that it's getting wasted away. It's more about uh, us sidestepping our commitments because of a long weekend. So, with that being said, do share your comments. I hope you've had a great weekend. And of course, like I said, get very excited for next week that is coming up because there is a lot of great things that are planned. And that said, I just want to wish you a good night, sweet dreams. Hope you had a great weekend, and I will catch you tomorrow. Bye.